So, if your current mission is proving you have a comprehensive grasp of the English language, you've probably hit a wall of acronyms. Maybe it's for a university application, a big career move, or, and this is a big one for a lot of people, pursuing immigration to Canada.
Right.
And if you're in that boat, you have almost certainly come across the PTE, the Pearson Test of English.
You definitely have. And for you, our dedicated learner, we are not going to do the superficial 10,000-foot view today.
No.
Our mission is a genuine deep dive. We've got the source material here, prep guides, scoring rubrics, the works, and we're going to decode the literal engine room of this exam.
I like that, the engine room.
We want to reveal exactly how the test is scored by the machine, what that AI is really listening for, what it's looking for, and where the high-yield, game-changing strategies are hidden.
Especially within those integrated tasks, which seems to be where the whole game is won or lost. Okay, let's unpack this right away, because the very nature of the PTE seems to dictate every single strategy we're about to talk about. I'm looking at this prep source, and it lays out the structure, but what really fundamentally separates the PTE from, say, an IELTS or a TOEFL?
Well, the PTE is an international, entirely computer-based English exam. It measures all 4 skills: speaking, writing, reading, listening. But, and this is key, it often does it simultaneously.
Okay.
The core difference, though, boils down to 2 big things. First, the variety of the test itself. There's PTE Academic, which is, the standard one for global study, general work, or immigration outside of Canada.
Right, the one most people have probably heard of.
Exactly. But then there's PTE Core. This is a newer version, and the source material really highlights this. It's mainly for Canadian immigration.
Okay, so a crucial distinction right there.
A huge one. It focuses much more heavily on real-life, sort of everyday communication tasks you'd actually encounter.
That detail alone, academic versus core, is a massive first takeaway for anyone listening who's got their sights set on Canada. The core tasks might need a different kind of social tact, which I'm sure we'll get into.
You will.
But let's get to the biggest difference maker, the one that, makes all the strategy so unique, the scoring system.
Absolutely. This is the defining feature of both versions, academic and core. It is total reliance on AI scoring. It is 100% machine-based.
No human graders at all.
None. And this ensures 2 things. First, incredibly fast results. You often get your score back in 48 hours. And second, a guaranteed high degree of fairness, because that machine applies the exact same objective criteria to every single test taker, every single time.
It just completely eradicates the human element, that, subjective grading.
It does.
Which means your prep isn't about, say, charming a sympathetic human grader or a professor you know. It's a clinical exercise. You're optimizing your output for a highly structured algorithm.
You've hit it exactly. The AI is a very strict, very, very literal digital grammar teacher. It has a checklist, and it does not deviate.
Okay, so this idea of optimization leads us straight to what you called the biggest challenge, but also the biggest opportunity: integrated scoring.
This concept is the central pillar of the entire exam. Your scores are explicitly not linear. They aren't siloed into 4 separate buckets.
What does that mean in practice?
Well, the source material is clear that the tasks are cross-scored. For example, a single speaking task, just one, might also contribute points to your listening score. Or a reading task could boost your writing score, and vice versa. It's all interconnected.
That is the ultimate aha moment for any learner right there. That changes everything. It means if I'm struggling with, let's say, my isolated reading tasks, I might be able to compensate and even boost my overall reading score by doing really well on a high-value integrated task that's technically in the writing section.
Precisely. Every task becomes a potential point multiplier.
Can you make that a bit more concrete?
Sure. When we get to the read aloud task in a minute, we're looking at a single task that could contribute, say, 7 points towards your reading score and 8 points toward your speaking score.
Right.
If you absolutely nail the content and the fluency of that task, you secure those 7 reading points, and they act as a kind of strategic buffer, even if your purely reading-focused sections are a bit weaker.
It's like a safety net.
It is. The overall scoring range is 10 to 90 for academic, which then gets converted into the Canadian Language Benchmark, or CLB, for the core version. But the strategy must always be laser focused on maximizing these integrated points. If a task contributes to 2 skills, it is by definition a higher value target for your practice time.
So the goal is to stop thinking about 4 separate sections. You have to start thinking about a single integrated performance matrix.
That's the mindset.
Okay, let's jump straight into it then. The first, and for many, the most daunting section, the speaking module. This part tests content, pronunciation, oral grammar, and, most critically, fluency. We need to figure out how to please that AI algorithm right out of the gate, especially since this module is so highly integrated.
Well, we have to start with the core philosophy of the speaking module. And it's this. The machine values consistency, connected speech, and rhythm above all else. It is a very, very strict metronome.
A metronome, I like that.
If the beat is consistent, it passes you. If the beat stops, even for a second, it doesn't matter if your content is perfect. You fail the rhythm test.
That's a fantastic analogy. So let's start with the first, and you said a critical task. Read aloud. The source material flags this as a high-impact integrated skill task. Why?
Because it contributes points directly to both speaking and reading.
Okay.
You'll face 6 to 7 of these. You get a short text, maybe 40 to 70 words, and you have to read it aloud after about 30 to 40 seconds of prep time.
And the scoring breakdown here is essential, right? You have to know this.
You absolutely have to. Content is scored from 0 to 5, and that's your reading score contribution. Then pronunciation is 0 to 5, and oral fluency is 0 to 5. Those two make up your speaking contribution.
So that's a total of 15 points per item. And with 6 or 7 of them, wow, that adds up.
It's a huge point multiplier. This one task could potentially contribute over 100 points to your overall score profile. It's massive.
Okay, so if content is about reading comprehension, basically, did I say the right words? What exactly is the AI listening for in pronunciation and fluency?
The source material is very specific here. The system values, and I'm quoting the idea, natural connected speech with correct rhythm and intonation.
Natural and connected, not robotic.
Exactly. For pronunciation, the AI is assessing if your vowel and consonant sounds are accurate and, easily understandable to a native speaker. But the real game changer is fluency.
The metronome?
The metronome. The AI is programmed to track specific fluency killers. These include silent pauses that go over 3 seconds.
3 seconds. That's a hard cutoff.
It is. Also, sound prolongations, like drawing out a word. PTE. It tracks false starts, restarts, and crucially, word-by-word reading. That staccato delivery just breaks the natural rhythm completely.
So if I pause for too long because I'm trying to remember how to pronounce one single difficult word, I don't just lose pronunciation points for that word, I'm actually losing fluency points for the entire sequence that follows that pause.
Exactly. The AI punishes hesitation far more severely than a minor pronunciation slip, as long as that slip doesn't make the word completely unintelligible.
That's a huge strategic insight.
It is. So the key is to use that 30 to 40 seconds of preparation time really effectively. You should quickly scan the text, identify any of those tricky multi-syllable words, and practice them quietly. But most importantly, you need to look for the punctuation.
The commas and the full stops.
Yes. The commas, the full stops, the question marks. They are the explicit rhythm guide for the algorithm. They tell you exactly where you must pause and for how long.
So the punctuation is literally the metronome's instruction manual. Okay, so how do we execute the reading without triggering those fluency killers?
You have to speak in meaningful phrases, not word by word. This means you take a short, brief pause at commas and a longer, more definitive pause at full stops.
And you also have to stress the right words.
Yes, you need to stress the important words, the nouns, the main verbs, the adjectives, to give the text a natural tone. It's what we call sentence stress. And it makes it sound like a cohesive thought, not just a list of words.
Okay, let's run through a quick example. I see one in the source material here. The text is, the rapid expansion of artificial intelligence, particularly in data processing and analytics, presents both opportunities and significant ethical challenges for modern societies.
Okay, a poor response might rush through it, sounding breathy, or it might pause in all the wrong places, something like the rapid expansion of artificial intelligence.
That word-by-word delivery, I can hear how that would lose points immediately.
Instantly. But a good fluent response would segment that text using the comma after analytics as a clear guide.
Right. How would that sound?
It should sound more like this. The rapid expansion of artificial intelligence, short pause, particularly in data processing and analytics, longer pause at the comma, presents both opportunities and significant ethical challenges for modern societies. Long, full stop pause.
I can hear the difference. There's an emphasis on rapid expansion, artificial intelligence, and ethical challenges. That rise and fall, the intonation, and the correct pauses, that's what signals natural, connected speech to the AI.
That's precisely it.
So the advice is crystal clear. If you stumble on a word, you absolutely must move on. Don't go back. Overcorrecting yourself just shows hesitation, and it instantly tanks your fluency score, which is a huge part of those 15 points.
It's a painful lesson, but it's a necessary one. We tell learners never sacrifice rhythm for retrieval.
Never sacrifice rhythm for retrieval. I love that. That should be the motto for this whole section.
It really is the core principle of PTE speaking.
Okay, moving on to the second task. Repeat sentence. This feels like a pure cognitive workout and another high integration item, contributing points heavily to both speaking and listening.
It's a very challenging memory and repetition exercise. You hear a sentence once, it's typically between 3 and 9 seconds long, and you just have to repeat it exactly as you heard it, and you'll get 10 to 12 of these.
The scoring breakdown here is fascinating because it seems to reinforce that fluency first mantra we just established. Content is only worth 0 to 3 points.
Right.
But pronunciation and fluency are still high value at 0 to 5 points each. So that's a potential total of 13 points per sentence.
And what's really fascinating is that the scoring for content, that maximum of 3 points, explicitly prioritizes the quality of your output over 100% verbatim accuracy.
Wait, say that again. That sounds really important.
If you only remember, say, 90% of the words from the sentence, but you deliver that 90% with perfect, smooth fluency, you will retain all 10 points for your pronunciation and fluency. And you'll still likely score 2 or even 3 points for content. You might lose 1 content point, maybe none. It's a fantastic trade-off.
But wait a minute. Isn't telling a learner to only aim for 90% accuracy and repeat sentence kind of, I don't know, isn't it going to make them complacent? Why not push for 100%?
That is a great question. And it gets right to the heart of the strategic choice you have to make in the moment. You should always strive for 100%, of course.
Right.
But the very instant your brain starts searching for that one missing word, you activate a silent pause or a sound prolongation. And that crushes your 10 points of fluency and pronunciation, all for the sake of 1 or 2 content points. It's a terrible exchange rate.
So the strategic instruction is literally, do not pause to think.
Do not pause to think. Fluency is worth more than 100% accuracy in this specific task.
So the goal is rapid, fluent delivery, even if there are some minor omissions. How do we maximize our short-term memory during that listening phase? It goes by so fast.
The key learner strategy involves 2 techniques. The first is chunking, and the second is shadowing.
Okay, what's chunking?
Chunking means you mentally divide the sentence into short, meaningful phrases as you're listening to it. So a sentence like, "The seminar on global economics will be held in the main conference room tomorrow afternoon," is too much to remember as one long string.
Right.
So you hear it as chunks. "The seminar on global economics will be held in the main conference room tomorrow afternoon." 3 manageable pieces.
And what about the other technique, shadowing?
Shadowing is a practice technique where you mentally or even physically mouth the words immediately as you hear them. This engages your vocal muscles and your acoustic memory at the same time, which really boosts recall.
So by the time the sentence ends, you already have the structure ready to go. You're not searching for the words.
That's the idea. You're primed to deliver it without hesitation.
This all sounds incredibly focused. What are the biggest, most common errors that cause people to lose points here?
There are 3 classic mistakes. The first is adding filler words. The dreaded or the AI hates them.
Okay.
The second is the error we just discussed. Yeah. Stopping your delivery completely when you forget a word. Just keep going.
And the third?
The third is inventing words. If the audio says, "The professor will update the reading list next week," and you say, "The professor will definitely update the reading list next week," that added word definitely can actually distort your content score. It is much better to maintain the rhythm and flow than to risk adding incorrect content.
So the speaking module starts with a very clear mandate from the AI. It is judging your rhythm. And any self-correction, any hesitation is a velocity killer.
Exactly.
Okay, let's transition now. We've talked about strict repetition. What about the tasks that require you to quickly organize your thoughts, to synthesize information, and to structure it on the fly?
Right. Now we're moving into the second tier of speaking tasks. And here, the AI isn't just scoring your fluency, it's scoring your ability to organize complex information into a predefined structure, and all within a very, very strict time limit.
So structure is king here.
Structure is absolutely king.
let's start with describe image. 6 to 7 of these, 25 seconds of prep, and just 40 seconds to speak, 15 points each. This is all about analyzing and organizing information very quickly.
And 25 seconds is, let's be honest, it's absolutely nothing when you're staring at a complex bar chart or a process diagram you've never seen before.
No kidding.
So this task demands that you memorize and deploy a clear, linear template instantly. You can't make it up as you go. The machine needs to hear a structured argument, and it doesn't really care what the image content is, as long as the structure is there.
Okay, so let's detail this required 3-part template. This is the non-negotiable metric the AI is tracking for content and structure, right?
It is. The source details a mandatory 3-part structure that just maximizes points because it signals clear organization to the machine. First, the introduction.
Right.
You just state what the image shows. For example, the image shows a line graph illustrating trends in renewable energy consumption between 2000 and 2020. Simple.
Okay, step 1. What's step 2?
Step 2 is the body, or the analysis. Here you describe the key features. The highest number, the lowest number, the most significant trend or comparison. You only use specific numbers for the most important data points. Don't try to read everything.
And the third part?
The third part is the conclusion. You provide a very brief summary or an implication or just an overall observation, something like, overall, it can be seen that consumption peaked in the final quarter, indicating a successful expansion strategy. Intro, body, conclusion, done.
Okay, let's talk about the variety of images, because the structure stays the same, but the vocabulary you need must shift dramatically. We've got bar charts, line graphs, pie charts, tables, process diagrams, maps, even just regular pictures.
That's right. And you need a mental toolkit of vocabulary for each one. If you get a line graph or a bar chart, your body section has to employ specific vocabulary for trends.
Like what?
Words like increase, surge, rocketed, plummeted, declined, remain stable or fluctuated. You have to demonstrate a high linguistic range by describing the movement, not just stating the numbers.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Instead of saying sales went up from 100 to 200, which is very basic,
right,
you should say something like sales experienced a dramatic surge, rising from 100 units to peak at 200 units by July. That's much more descriptive and academic.
And if you're faced with, say, a pie chart or a table, the focus changes. It's not about trends over time anymore. It's about comparison and proportion.
Exactly. So your vocabulary shifts.
Yeah.
You must use comparison words, the majority, the largest share, significantly less than, almost a quarter of. If it's a table, you're looking for the main outlier or the most striking contrast between the columns or the rows. You should spend about 20 seconds on the body, just detailing 2 or 3 key comparisons fluently.
What about the one that seems the most challenging structurally? The process diagram or the cycle, like the water cycle or a manufacturing process.
That one is tricky. It's tricky because the content is scored strictly on sequential accuracy.
So the order matters a lot.
A huge amount. If you describe the steps out of order, you lose content points, even if your language is perfectly fluent. You have to use phrases that signal the steps in order.
For example?
You have to start with something like the process starts with, followed by next it moves to, then following this step, and finally the cycle completes when. You are narrating the diagram step by step, and you have to use those linking phrases to maintain coherence for the AI.
So the advice, once again, seems to be, don't try to describe every single number or every little detail. Pick 2 or 3 main points, apply the template religiously, and deliver it fluently within that 40-second window.
A perfect high-scoring output is one that fills the time and maintains the rhythm, even if it happens to miss a minor detail. The structure and fluency are what gets you the points.
Okay, so from describing an image, we move to another powerhouse task, retell lecture. This one contributes substantially to both speaking and listening scores.
It does. And this task is all about your ability to take rapid, meaningful notes and then synthesize that information out loud.
This is where the note-taking masterclass really begins. You listen to a lecture, it can be up to 90 seconds long, you get a measly 10 seconds to prepare, and then 40 seconds to summarize it in your own words. You just cannot rely on verbatim recall.
Note-taking is absolutely non-negotiable here. And the goal is not to write full sentences. That's impossible. You're trying to capture the flow of ideas using keywords, abbreviations, symbols.
What's a good method for that?
We often advise using a simple T structure or a flow chart on your notepad. As you listen, you are listening for key things. What is the main topic? What are the 2 or 3 main ideas? And are there any supporting examples or evidence?
So give us an example of what that note-taking might look like for a lecture on, say, the benefits of renewable energy.
Okay. On your pad, you might write topic, green energy. Then under it, main idea 1, solar wind, clean, sustain.
The arrow meaning leads to.
Exactly. Then a detail for that, reduces CO2. I just write the symbol for carbon dioxide. Then main idea 2, econ benefit. And a detail for that, creates jobs plus low long-term cost. You use symbols, arrows for cause and effect, abbreviations like GOVST for government plus signs for and. You should aim for 8 to 12 concise, linked phrases.
Then you take those disjointed, messy notes and you have to impose that rigid 40-second speaking template on top of them.
You absolutely have to. The machine needs to hear this template to give you maximum points for structure and coherence. It goes like this.
Okay.
First, an introduction stating the main idea. The speaker in the lecture discussed the critical need for renewable energy sources.
Simple enough. Then the details.
Right. Details, using 2 or 3 of your key points and critically linking words. Firstly, the speaker emphasized that solar and wind power offer sustainable alternatives to fossil fuels. Moreover, she highlighted the significant economic benefits, noting that the industry is creating thousands of new, specialized jobs.
So you're stringing your keywords together with those linking phrases.
Yes. And then you wrap it up with a conclusion that states the overall emphasis. In conclusion, the lecture strongly stressed the dual advantages of environmental protection and economic growth driven by green technology. Done.
What's the #1 mistake that sinks people on this task?
Trying to repeat the lecture word for word, or just getting tangled up in their own notes. If you try to recreate the exact language of the lecturer, your fluency will just evaporate.
Right, the rhythm killer again.
Exactly. You have to use your own simple, smooth linking words. Secondly, however, therefore, to maintain that flow. The AI is judging how coherently you synthesize the main concepts, not how many technical terms you remembered. If you only give one idea and stop after 20 seconds, your content score will be terrible because you haven't shown you can synthesize, even if you spoke clearly.
Okay, before we leave the speaking section, let's quickly cover the 2 smaller but still strategically important tasks. First up, respond to a situation. This one sounds highly relevant for our PTE Core candidates focusing on immigration.
It's very relevant for them. The Core version really emphasizes real-life English mastery and social tact. So you're presented with an everyday or workplace scenario. For example, you might have to politely request a refund or ask a manager for clarification.
And you get 25 seconds to prep, 40 seconds to speak.
Right, and the scoring here focuses very heavily on the appropriateness of your tone. Are you being polite? Are you professional? Or is it an informal situation? The tone has to match.
And I see the source material provides a very tactical 4-step structure to make sure you hit all the criteria and get maximum points.
It's a very practical structure designed to manage the situation professionally and clearly. First, a greeting or acknowledgement.
Like, hello, hope you're having a good day.
Exactly. Second, state the problem clearly. And you have to do this without sounding accusatory or rude. Something like, I'm calling regarding invoice number 456, which seems to have an incorrect charge for the software license.
Very clear, very polite. What's step 3?
Request a solution. You have to politely and directly ask for what you want. I was wondering if you could look into this and process a corrected invoice for me.
And finally, a concluding statement.
A polite closing that just summarizes briefly. Thank you for your time and assistance with this matter. Simple as that.
That structure really demands real-world communication tact. Yeah. You have to clearly state the problem, like, if you ordered gluten-free pasta and it was wrong, you have to say that specifically before you ask for the fix. If you just waffle or sound overly aggressive, the AI could dock you points for an inappropriate tone or for a lack of clarity.
Yes, the AI is judging your communicative competence in a real-world scenario. Your language has to be formal. If the situation is professional, you need to use phrases like, I would appreciate your assistance, or could you please clarify?
And finally, the last speaking task, the rapid-fire one. Answer short question.
Right. 10 to 12 of these. It's general knowledge or common sense. A question like, what do we call the person who sells meat?
And the requirement is minimal.
Just speed and clarity. You need a very short, accurate answer, usually just 1 or 2 words. Butcher or Antarctica. The time limit is very short, and any hesitation or any unnecessary information is pointless. Speed and accuracy are the only 2 metrics here.
So, to summarize the entire speaking section, the strategy is simple, but the execution is really difficult. You have to memorize the templates, you have to use specific vocabulary for the situation, and above all, you can never, ever sacrifice your rhythm for word retrieval.
That is the key takeaway. And if speaking is a sprint that's defined by rhythm, then writing is a structural marathon where the rules of the road are set in concrete. They are not suggestions.
Right. Let's move on to that. If the speaking section is all about fluid momentum, the writing section seems to prioritize surgical precision. The AI here is demanding about rigid formatting rules, word limits, strict academic formalism.
The writing module is absolutely the domain of precision. Let's start with summarized written text. Like read aloud, this is a heavily integrated skill task, so it contributes points to both writing and reading.
And this task has one rule that seems to be the most non-negotiable metric on the entire exam. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. The most critical form-based rule is that your summary must be written in only one sentence.
Only one?
And that single sentence has to stick to a strict length limit, between 5 and 75 words for academic, and even stricter for core, at 25 to 50 words.
And if you break that rule...
If you violate the one-sentence rule by putting a full stop in the middle, you instantly fail the form criteria. You get a 0 out of 2 for form, which makes it almost impossible to score well on the task overall.
That is a brutal way to lose points. You could have captured the content perfectly, but one misplaced period, and you are heavily, heavily penalized.
The total scoring criteria are content, form, grammar, vocabulary, and spelling, adding up to 10 points. But form is the gatekeeper.
So the strategy here isn't about writing a simple sentence. It's about constructing a complex, grammatically sound sentence that can link multiple ideas together using connectors.
Exactly. You have to quickly read the source text, which can be up to 300 words, identify the single main idea, and then find 2 or 3 key supporting points to weave in.
So how do we connect those key points efficiently without falling into grammar traps like a comma splice or a run-on sentence?
You have to rely on academic subordinating conjunctions and complex sentence connectors. Words like although, which, whereas, therefore, despite, while.
Okay, can you give an example of how that works?
Sure. Instead of 2 simple sentences like, climate change is accelerating. Human activities like burning fossil fuels are the main cause.
Right, 2 sentences. You can't do that.
You can't. So you combine them. Climate change is accelerating due to human activities such as burning fossil fuels, which are increasing greenhouse gases.
I see. You used due to link the cause and effect, and which to add a descriptive clause, all while keeping it as one single sentence. How do we make sure we hit that word count sweet spot?
The source material suggests aiming for around 25 to 35 words, especially for PTE Core. It's long enough to include detail, but it's short enough to keep the grammatical mistakes manageable.
What if your draft is too long?
If your draft summary comes out at, say, 100 words, you need a word reduction strategy. Focus on eliminating introductory filler phrases. Get rid of, it is important to note that, and substitute descriptive phrases with single, powerful words. For instance, replace the act of burning with just combustion.
This task really proves that the AI isn't just scoring your general English ability, it's scoring your mastery of very specific mechanical constraints.
And that continues with the next task. Write an essay. This is 200 to 300 words in just 20 minutes, and it tests your academic formalism and your argument development. This is where the machine truly evaluates your command of academic English discourse.
20 minutes to plan, draft, and review an argumentative essay. That is intense. Let's look at the scoring criteria again, because I see there are 6 distinct areas the AI is scrutinizing.
That's right. The AI is looking for 6 things. 1, content.
Yeah.
Did you fully address all parts of the prompt? 2, development, structure, and coherence. Is it logically organized with smooth transitions? 3, form. Did you stick to that 200 to 300 word count? Going over or under is penalized. 4, general linguistic range. Are you using complex sentences and varied academic vocabulary?
And the last 2?
5 is grammar accuracy of tenses, subject-verb agreement. And 6 is spelling and vocabulary accurate spelling and appropriate word choice.
Given that 20-minute constraint, the planning phase is absolutely not optional. The source recommends allocating 2 to 3 minutes for planning, 15 for writing, and 2 for review.
That planning phase dictates your entire coherence score. In those 180 seconds, you must identify the topic and the task. Is it agree, disagree? Discuss both views. Then you decide on your clear thesis statement, and you outline 2 strong reasons with a realistic, relevant example for each one.
Okay, let's map this out. Let's use the public transport prompt from the source. Governments should invest more in public transport than in building new roads. To what extent do you agree or disagree? If we choose to agree, how do we structure that response to maximize coherence points?
You have to use a 5-paragraph model. It's a formula.
Walk me through it.
Paragraph 1 is your introduction. You paraphrase the topic sentence and you state your unequivocal thesis. It has to directly answer the prompt. So, something like, I strongly agree with the assertion that greater public funds should be directed toward transport networks.
Clear and direct. Then body paragraph 1.
Body paragraph 1 focuses on your first reason. Let's say environmental sustainability. You start with a strong topic sentence. Firstly, prioritizing public transport offers profound environmental benefits. Then you develop that point, giving an example of how reducing single-occupancy vehicles cuts urban emissions.
And body paragraph 2 is the same thing, just with the second reason.
Yes, body paragraph 2 is your second argument, maybe economic and social equity. But you have to start with a linking transition phrase.
Like what?
Like furthermore. Or, in addition to environmental advantages, that signals the connection to the AI. Then you discuss how lower fare networks and accessibility help low-income commuters.
And those linking transition phrases, furthermore, moreover, that's what the AI is literally tracking for coherence and flow between your paragraphs.
Yeah.
It proves the structure is organized.
Absolutely. And to show a really high linguistic range, especially if you're aiming for a score of 79 or higher, the source suggests incorporating a counterpoint and an immediate rebuttal into that second body paragraph.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. You acknowledge the opposing view. For instance, while some argue that new roads are vital for freight movement, this need can be managed through targeted maintenance and specific industrial routes, rather than broad public road expansion.
So you've considered the other side. That's a very high-level tactic. It shows sophisticated critical thinking and control over the structure.
It does. And then the conclusion just wrapped everything up. It's simply a restatement of your thesis and a summary of your two main reasons, but you have to use new, varied wording.
And those final 2 minutes are not for adding content.
No, they are for your checklist. Is it between 200 and 300 words? Is my thesis clear? Do I have two distinct reasons? Is my vocabulary clean and formal? Did I use allocation of funds and equitable outcomes instead of giving money and being fair?
This detailed mapping just confirms it again. The essay is purely about demonstrating your control over a formalized academic process, not just about creativity.
And finally, we have to spend a moment on the PTE Core-specific writing task. Write an email. It's shorter, 90 to 110 words in 10 minutes, and it's frequently overlooked by test takers who are only focused on the academic prep.
The primary metric here shifts a little, doesn't it? It moves away from pure academic discourse to appropriateness of tone.
Precisely. You have to immediately identify if the scenario writing to your landlord, your manager, a teacher, a friend requires a formal or an informal tone. Mixing those tones is a key way to lose points.
And the structure is still key.
Yes, it must be a clear four-part model.
Let's detail the tonal difference for the AI. How does that look in a formal situation?
If the scenario is formal, like you're notifying your manager you're taking sick leave, the structure is greeting, dear Mr. or Miss last name. Body, no contractions. Use I am, not I'm. Use polite phrases like I would appreciate or please advise. And the closing, yours sincerely, best regards, or respectfully.
And if the scenario is informal, like you're coordinating a weekend trip with a friend, the whole structure changes.
It changes completely. You'd use greeting, hi, first name, or just hey, body. You can use informal language contractions like I'm, will, phrases like let me know, or can you grab the tickets in the closing.
Take care, cheers, talk soon.
Getting that greeting and closing right is half the battle for core candidates, isn't it? It immediately signals to the AI that you understood the social context of the communication.
It's the first and last thing the AI will register about your tone. It's critical. Okay, we've covered the major direct skill tests. Let's talk now about the tasks that truly blend the skills, particularly focusing on those integrated tasks where knowledge of collocations, and this is a big one, knowledge of negative marking becomes an essential part of your strategy.
Let's start with the deepest integration task in the reading section. Reading and writing. Fill in the blanks. This task simultaneously affects both of those scores. You get a text, and you have to choose the most appropriate word from a drop-down list for each blank.
And the strategy here isn't just about vocabulary knowledge. It's about grammar, it's about context, and it's especially about something you called collocations. We need to spend a moment defining this because it seems like the secret weapon for this task.
Collocations are words that just naturally go together in academic English. They are fixed pairings or groups of words that sound right to a native speaker, even if a synonym might also be grammatically acceptable.
So the AI is testing your familiarity with these academic patterns, not just what individual words mean.
Exactly. The three-step process for this task should be: first, read the sentence for general meaning. Second, check the grammar. It's the blank, a noun, an adjective, a verb in the past tense. And third, use your collocation knowledge.
Can you give us some examples?
Absolutely. Let's say the text is, scientists must research before submitting their findings. Your options might be make, conduct, perform, complete.
They all seem plausible.
They do. But while you make a decision or complete a task, the standard academic collocation for research is almost universally conduct research or undertake research. The AI knows this.
Okay, another one from the source. The committee has a major academic about the budget shortfall. The options could be worry, problem, concern, issue.
Again, worry or problem convey the meaning, but the established academic collocation is major concern or significant issue. If you don't know these fixed phrases like draw a conclusion, pose a threat, assume responsibility, you're essentially just guessing, even if you have a huge vocabulary. The trick here is to practice with academic word lists that group these collocations together.
Okay, now for the ultimate warning sign. The big red flag task. Reading multiple choice, multiple answer. This is the negative marking trap that demands a massive tactical shift.
This is critical information for any test taker. The scoring alert in the source is very clear. A correct answer gets you +1 point. A wrong answer gets you -1 point.
-1.
Yes. The minimum score for the question is 0. So if there are 5 options and you select 3, you get 2 right and 1 wrong, your total score for that question is 2 minus 1, which equals 1 point.
Okay.
But if you get 1 right and 2 wrong, you score 1 minus 2, which equals -1. And that gets rounded up to 0. You have effectively wasted your time to gain absolutely nothing.
That changes the game completely. It turns the task into a high-stakes poker move. You can't just guess.
You can't. The expert strategy here is purely defensive and cautious. It is always safer to select only the options you are 100% sure of, rather than risking a penalty by over-selecting.
So if you're sure of 2, just pick 2 and stop.
Yes. If you are 100% certain of 2 options, select those 2 and move on. If you take a guess at a third option and it's wrong, you've just erased one of the points you already earned.
So this is all about elimination skills. How do we eliminate those dangerous options?
You eliminate options that use extreme language like always, never, only, or must, unless the text explicitly supports that extreme claim. You also eliminate options that distort the meaning of the passage or that focus on tiny tangential details instead of the main points. If you find yourself hesitating, or you have to search the text twice to confirm an answer, just move on. Select your confident choices and avoid the penalty at all costs.
Okay, transitioning to listening. Let's look at the 3 major integrated powerhouses that test your listening comprehension and your typing or writing skills.
First up is summarized spoken text, which contributes to listening and writing. This is the listening counterpart to the written summary task we discussed earlier. You listen to a 60 to 90 second lecture, and you have to write a summary of 50 to 70 words in one single paragraph, all within 10 minutes.
So this demands active listening and immediate note-taking of keywords, exactly like retell lecture. But here, instead of speaking, you're transitioning those notes into formal written English.
Correct. Your notes should capture the structure, the topic, any examples, benefits, or challenges mentioned. Then you have to use those keywords to construct a fluent, single-paragraph summary of 50 to 70 words. And you have to avoid the critical mistake of just copying words from your notes. They have to be converted into full, flowing, grammatically correct sentences using linking phrases like furthermore and in contrast.
And that word count is absolutely strict, right? Much stricter than the essay. If you write 45 words or 75 words, you lose points on form.
You do. Next is highlight incorrect words, an integrated task for listening and reading. This requires a huge amount of concentration and coordination. You're following a transcript on the screen while listening to the audio, and you have to click on the words in the transcript that are different from what the speaker is actually saying.
The challenge here is processing 2 inputs at once, visual and auditory, and spotting the difference very quickly.
Exactly. Your brain naturally tries to autocorrect the visual text to match what you're hearing, but you have to fight that urge. If the transcript says, the government established a committee, but the speaker actually says the government established a group, you have to click on the word committee.
What's the strategy for that?
The key strategy is to try and listen just slightly ahead of the point you are reading visually. That gives your brain a split second to register the discrepancy before you move on.
And finally, the highest score closer in the entire test, with arguably the most tactical scoring method, right from dictation. This contributes heavily to both listening and writing.
This is one of the single most high-value tasks on the entire test. You get 10 to 12 of these, and it can massively boost your overall score if you do it right.
And the critical scoring detail is what makes it so high value.
Yes, you get 1 point for each correct word in the correct order. If the sentence is 15 words long, that's 15 potential points.
So the penalty for even a minor error is huge. If I miss the word the or an, my word order is thrown off for every single word that follows, which could cost me multiple points.
That is the exact trap. If the audio is, the assignment must be submitted before Friday, and you type the assignment submitted before Friday, you miss the words must be. Not only do you lose 2 points for those missing words, but if you also happen to misspell assignment, you'd lose a 3rd point. Spelling errors are the #1 point killer here.
So how do we handle that acoustic memory challenge, especially when the sentences get longer?
You have to use the chunking technique again, focusing on your auditory short-term recall. You listen for the natural pauses and you type down keywords. But you also have to rely very heavily on your internal grammar sense to reconstruct what we call the grammar words.
Small words.
The small words. The articles like on, the prepositions on, into, for. The auxiliary verbs is, are, have been.
Yeah.
These small words are so easily missed when you're listening, but they are absolutely essential for the sequence score. You have to listen, immediately type your notes or the words you remember, and then use your knowledge of syntax to fill in those small but crucial grammatical words.
This one task demands simultaneous high-level listening, recall, rapid typing, and then grammatical reconstruction. It is the ultimate test of integrated skills and tactical awareness.
It is. The entire test structure really emphasizes that for PTE mastery, success is not just about general conversational English skill. It is about the tactical, structured application of your knowledge about this integrated scoring mechanism.
Well, we have completed this incredibly detailed deep dive into the PTE preparation material, and I think the takeaways for you, the learner, are crystal clear. This is a highly tactical exam that rewards structure and rhythm far more than it rewards raw, unfocused language ability.
You absolutely have to prioritize fluency in speaking above all else. Always maintain that smooth, connected rhythm, and you have to embrace those rigid templates for both describe, image, and retell lecture. Remember, hesitation is the machine's most severe penalty.
And in the writing section, you have to become a structural fanatic. Adhere strictly to the word counts, whether it's the 200 to 300 words for the essay or that crucial one-sentence 5 to 75 word form for the summary.
Right.
You also have to be highly disciplined in tasks with negative marking, like that reading multiple choice, where caution and selective answering are literally rewarded with higher scores.
Ultimately, this deep dive really proves that knowledge of the scoring system, how and why points are assigned across these integrated tasks, that knowledge is the ultimate shortcut to maximizing your score.
Yeah.
The real goal here isn't just language proficiency, it's what we could call algorithmic fluency.
Algorithmic fluency, I like that. The ability to optimize your output specifically for a machine evaluator. So, given that this entire test is scored by a machine that is looking for highly structured, predictable output, this raises a fascinating and I think perhaps provocative question for our listeners to think about. Is the focus of modern language testing inevitably shifting away from complex human communication nuances, things like empathy or humor or ambiguity, which humans intuitively understand? And is it moving more and more towards structured output optimization that machines can just easily quantify?
That is definitely something significant for you to mull over as you begin to apply these high-yield strategies.
Definitely some food for thought. For those of you ready to put these strategies into action and start building that algorithmic fluency, the source material we looked at explicitly mentions practice resources like Alpha PTE to apply these techniques. We wish you the best of luck with your PTE journey and look forward to hearing about your success.